So guys, with Destiny Rising coming out tomorrow, today I wanted to make a video just with my first beginner tips going into Destiny Rising, especially if this is your first ever gacha game, because there are a few little potholes inside of the gacha games that you can fall into that I'm going to try and help you to avoid inside of this video. Now this is mainly focused around just your resource management, but also your gacha resource spending as well, because there's a lot of information out there right now that you guys should know ahead of jumping into Destiny Rising. With that all said, let's jump first into the resource management portion, which is going to be your daily limited resource, otherwise known as Pinnacle Power. Now, most gacha games have the system where they have a currency that recharges on a daily basis, and this currency is used to acquire items to level up characters and stuff like that. Now, inside of the most recent dev update video that they dropped yesterday, and I myself dropped a breakdown video of that yesterday as well, so if you want to watch that you can, they mentioned that this Pinnacle Power resource isn't actually going to be mandatory in order to get rewards. Now, we do not know the limitations of this, but it seems like you will just be able to continuously grind if you want to. Now, like I said, we don't know the limitations, so we don't know if you'll still need this Pinnacle Power resource in order to get character leveling materials, or if this resource will just be used for gaining like weapons and stuff inside of different activities. So if it works like you do not need this resource at all in order to get the character leveling materials, then you can just go ahead and level up the characters and their abilities and their weapons whenever you feel like it. But if it doesn't work like that and you still need this Pinnacle Power resource in order to get those rewards, in order to level up your characters, then I'm highly going to recommend that you only level up your characters, your weapons, and your abilities when you need to, because there are going to be parts in the game where it tells you to level up a character so that you can continue with a quest. But for the most part, you might not even need to level up a character for a little bit of gameplay, just because you'll just be breezing through it. If you start to struggle with content though, obviously leveling up a character will help. But another thing to mention is that your characters have multiple things that you're going to need to level up at one time. So in most gacha games, you've got things like your character level, then your weapons, then your character's abilities, and then also your artifacts. Destiny Rising has a similar system. You've obviously got your base character level, then your weapons, then your artifacts, and then obviously your character abilities. And there are so many times in gacha games where I see people just focusing on one of those sections. So they'll end up with a level 80 character, but their abilities will still be level 2, meaning that their overall damage is way lower than it should be. Same thing with your artifacts. If you're not leveling up your artifacts, that is a huge waste of potential, because artifacts are a free way to just get a whole load of extra damage, which is going to be very useful and potentially way more important than leveling up, say, your abilities or your actual weapons. That said though, leveling up your weapons can still be very useful. Now currently, as of making this video, we do not know which part of a character you should prioritize first. I'm going to try and make that video as soon as physically possible when the game launches, so that you guys know where to spend your specific resources and what to level up first. Because I remember in Genshin there was like one artifact that if you leveled up to maximum would drastically increase your overall damage, making it the most important thing to level up on your given character, even though you should really be leveling up everything all together as best you can. And there are also certain abilities within characters that you might need to prioritize over others. So for example, your like super ability is like way more potent than say your normal ability. You might want to focus on that compared to something else. Now, once again, we do not know the ins and outs of each of these characters yet, but once we do, I'll be sure to make a guide on that. But just be careful on where you spend this Pinnacle Power resource. Plan out what you want to do ahead of time before you end up wasting this precious resource, because you're then going to have to wait a whole other day before you can then use this resource again. Or you can spend money, which isn't the preferred option, I would say, but it is also an option there for you. Now, moving away from just the Pinnacle Power resource and that main resource for leveling, I do of course need to mention the Gacha system, which you will be introduced to in this game quite early on, and it is the main way that you're going to be obtaining brand new 5-star and 4-star characters. Now, just because there are characters that are 5 stars and 4 stars, that is kind of like a brief way of understanding what characters are good and bad, but there are situations where a 4-star character is going to be way more potent then a 5-star. So I'd highly recommend watching guides on YouTube of people who have those characters, so then you can make your own decision on what characters you should be going for. Once again, going to be trying my best to get those videos up for you as fast as humanly possible, but that's just one big tip going into it. Now, alongside this, the dev team for Destiny Rising did confirm that for free, people are going to get a maximum roughly of 200 free pulls within the first week of gameplay through just events and general gameplay, alongside an extra 10 free draws that we're going to get from the pre-registration rewards, which everyone should be getting upon logging in. Now, there's one big thing to note about the pulls for these different characters. You of course have your standard character pulls, which at the moment I think only include 3 different 5-star characters, those being Tantu, Ningfei, and Jolda. For those who don't know, Tantu is a solar warlock themed character who has the Well of Radiance as their main super ability, and I believe uses scout rifles and sniper rifles as their main weapons. Ningfei is an Arc Strider hunter who uses an Arc Staff as their main ability, and has, I believe, SMGs and crossbows as their main weapons, and Jolda is a Void Bubble Titan who uses the Void Bubble from Destiny 2 as their main super, and has, I believe, SMGs and swords as their main weapons. And those are the only characters that we know for sure are going to be inside of the standard character pool. For the limited character pool, the only character that we know so far is going to be Gwen, who is a 5-star character, obviously, with the Void Scythe and uses shotguns and dual-wield sidearms as her main weapons. Now, you're probably noticing that I'm mentioning specific weapons here, and that's because characters can only use the 2 weapons that I have mentioned. They cannot use, for example, assault rifles if they obviously aren't able to use them. So Tantu can't use anything other than a scout rifle and a sniper rifle. Jolda can't use anything other than an SMG and a sword. Stuff like that. Now, these characters are going to be very important for what you decide to spend these pools on, because these aren't the only characters that are going to be coming to the game. They are, of course, going to be adding even more characters later on, and we already have confirmation of the next 2 characters coming. Those being Estella, a solar warlock who uses pulse rifles and machine guns as her weapons, and is able to summon like this dragon sentry turret that is able to shoot at enemies constantly, which is very, very potent, at least from the beta gameplay that I've seen. And then we're also getting a new 4-star character in the form of Yumeko, I believe her name is, and she's basically like a 4-star version of Tantu, and is a Void Hunter who uses a Void Shuriken, I believe, to weaken targets, but also has a way of group healing as well. So, planning out what characters you want to spend your pools on is going to be very, very important. But they did actually optimize the draw system inside of the most recent beta, I believe, at least for the NA version. Don't know about the CN version at the moment, but for what we know right now, for the standard character pools, the first 50 draws are actually going to be discounted by 20%. So every 10 draws will only cost you 8 charms, which is very, very good to know. And you're also guaranteed 1 5-star character within the first 30 draws, which is absolutely amazing. And after you have accumulated 180 draws, which you will be able to do for free, players will be able to select 1 mythic character for free from the standard pool. Now, due to there only being currently, as of making this video, 3 characters confirmed for the standard pool, within 180 pools, there is a chance that you get all 3 of the tier 5 characters. And then you can select another tier 5 character from that to then add on to their talent tree, which is the kind of duplicate system where if you get a duplicate character, you then gain a free new ability for that character. So if you're lucky enough and you get all 3 characters, you then get to select another one that you just get to buff up for free. But if you run into a situation where you get a duplicate character and you're missing just 1 character, then from this free player selection, you are able to just pick the character you are missing. But these accumulative draws do not count for the limited character banners, which do not have any of these like safe new player features. It just has a guaranteed mythic character after 60 draws. Now, as of making this video, we know that we are going to be getting 210 draws with, I believe, around 12,500 Lumia leaves as well. Now, I do not know the conversion rate of Lumia leaves to draws, but we're going to be getting a whole load of free draws here, which is absolutely incredible. So being smart with who you pick to pull on is going to be very, very important. Once again, weapons are also going to play a huge part in this. So if you have, say, an SMG and a sword, it might be worth pulling for Jolda since she can use those weapons. There is no point pulling for a character if you do not have weapons that they can use. Same thing goes for weapons that are found within season passes. Like we know already from yesterday's video, there is going to be a free kind of daily login event pass, which at the end of it will give you the option to choose between 3 different weapons. Those being the exotic hand cannon Crimson, the exotic sniper rifle Borealis, and the exotic SMG Huckleberry. Now, these specific weapon types can then be used on specific characters, so there's no point picking the exotic hand cannon if you don't have a character that can use the hand cannon. So be smart with which weapon you select based on the characters that you have. And then just to end off here, one major thing is of course that they are obviously going to be adding way more stronger characters later on down the line. Power creep is an inevitable thing with gacha games, and it's probably going to be no different here with Destiny Rising. Now, I'm hoping that they don't go too insane with the power creep and make future characters way stronger than some of the currently available characters, but we have no way of knowing that for sure. So if you want to save up some of your currencies in order to then be able to get some of those more potent characters down the line, there's obviously nothing wrong with doing that, especially if you're not interested in any of the currently available characters. So that's going to be a probably very, very big tip going into Destiny Rising. With that all said though, that is it for my tips on this game heading into it. Obviously, once again, it does launch tomorrow at 9 AM wherever you are in the world. And for those of you who want to use a VPN to get in, there are server limitations. So if you use a VPN to play the game early, you're going to be locked to that particular server. So it might just be worth waiting until the game officially releases before you actually start playing. And of course, the pre-download for this game does go live at 2 PM UK time, so transfer that to whatever time zone you're in so that you can pre-download the game, which I believe is going to be around a 30 gigabyte download, so definitely get ahead of that if you want to be jumping in as soon as the game launches tomorrow. With that all said though, that's it for today's video, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I'd very much appreciate it. But with that all said, once again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.